Ortho-Bionomy, loosely translated from the Greek, means the correct application of the natural laws of life. Natural laws being laws of physics, like gravity works. For every action there's an opposite and equal reaction. To follow the path of least resistance. Following the path of least resistance is like trees bending in the wind, when it's a strong wind so they don't break. It's water going down a hill following the path of least resistance. It doesn't ever go in a straight line. It goes down and follows a path that gives it ease. In Ortho-Bionomy, we're going to follow those things. We want to follow the body. We exaggerate patterns. If somebody's shoulders are up towards their ears and they're high up and they can't get them to go down, what an orthobionomist would do to facilitate the opposite reaction is to simply lift up a little higher. And when that happens, the nervous system sees what's going on, it feels it and goes, oh, what am I doing up there? And then it just simply lets go. And the shoulders come back down and things shift. And you start to find a balance. Ortho-Bionomy was developed by Arthur Lincoln Pauls, who was an osteopath. He was from England. He had been a judo black belt. He was a teacher. And he would throw people around. They would get out of whack, and he would send them to the osteopath down the street. That osteopath told him he ought to become an osteopath because he had his own built-in clientele. And Arthur became an osteopath. He went to school and learned stuff. But he had a real problem with the force thrust stuff when they really pop bones back into place because you need good timing. And it went against his judo principles about giving way to superior force, about going with the path of least resistance. So he was looking for something that might go along with that more. And he read a paper by a Dr. Lawrence Jones that was called Spontaneous Release Through Positioning. In that paper, Dr. Jones had found that when you put people into positions of comfort, that they would spontaneously release that tension pattern. Now, his work is called strain counter-strain these days. And when he would do something, it still is pretty much that they would put someone into a position and then hold it for 90 seconds or longer. But it was very exact and very perfect kind of way that was the only way to do it. Arthur kind of added the judo. I usually say that he married judo with osteopathy, so there was more of a flow, there was more of an energetic pattern, and he went with things as it was to the person. It individualizes things so that you create it in the moment for each person that you're working with. Not everybody has the same range of motion. And in Ortho-Bionomy, we're always going to want to be in comfort. That's our main rule. If we have any rules at all, it's about comfort. Everything else we give you are principles and concepts to allow for the individualization and creative process for each person. Ortho-Bionomy is not about doing the same thing with the same, different people and always doing the same thing. It's about adapting and supporting people and being who they are, being the pattern that they are. So rather than take a shoulder, and try to push it down, we would take it up higher. We would do it a little bit more. Arthur read the paper by Dr. Jones and took it back to England and played with it a bit and found that if he added that judo principle and added just a little bit of compression or traction when he was holding a position for somebody, and he would just come in a little bit and hold that position. This is like the neutral place, the place that feels the most comfortable. And he would hold it and either push in and do a little compression or pull out and do a little traction, which would stimulate the nervous system to see where it was so that it could shift. Kind of like hitting the reset button on your hot water heater. So Arthur took all that and he found that he could get the holds, the different techniques in the way that he held the body in about, 10 seconds, sometimes 20 seconds. And he took that back to Dr. Jones and showed him how he had evolved that and evolved Dr. Jones' original work. And then showed Dr. Jones what he had done. Dr. Jones said that wasn't his stuff. And so Arthur, he blessed him, and Arthur went off on his way and named it Ortho-Bionomy and started teaching, and here we are today. So we start at phase 4. Arthur would tell you that phase 1 was what we do unconsciously when we get comfortable at night. When you're laying down in bed and you're trying to get comfortable and you feel all tight and icky and you throw your arms over here and you get kind of weird and throw a leg off the bed and you scoot all your pillows around and you finally get real comfortable and you have that place and you just get, fall asleep. That'd be phase 1. It's what we do naturally, and we kind of do it unconscious. And then phase 2 would have been a conscious movement, as if, if I talked here for too long and I started moving around because my legs got tired and I needed to get more comfortable, it'd be a conscious movement of, my foot was going to sleep, so I better move and get more comfortable. That's phase 2. And then phase 3, Arthur considered Dr. Jones's work. That's where he stepped off into Ortho-Bionomy, so he gives credit to Dr. Jones at phase 3. And then we come into phase 4. And then we go into phase 4 is more physical movements with people. We do bigger movements, more structural movements. When we get into phase 5, it's a lot more subtle when we start working with energetic patterns and more subtle movements, smaller movements. Phase 6, we start working with the auric body, off the body, on the body, and working with more energetic patterns. And phase 7 is using more geometric patterns or long distance kind of stuff when you're working with people that aren't right there. So anyway, Arthur took that, evolved it. He would call it the evolvement of the original concept, and started teaching around the United States. The first time it came to the United States was in about 1975. Some people got introduced to it and got Arthur to come back in 1976 and start teaching classes. So he came around, started teaching classes, and the principles that are based, Ortho-Bionomy is principle-based. We use principles to do techniques. So if I was to show you a shoulder point and you were going to move somewhere in here and show you that that was the technique, the principles are to be in the range of motion that's comfortable for somebody. So if they have all this movement, you would move them around like that. But if they only had movement like this, for one person a release might be like here, and another person for the same place it might be up here. You're always going to want to find the path of least resistance, the comfortable place. When you're working with people, you identify a tension place, maybe a place of pain, and then you'll move away from tension towards ease of movement and into comfort. You're always moving away from tension and into ease of movement. I often call that neutral, that when you're, just like a gear shift, when you're moving and you go into gear and it's thicker and more resistant, and then you come back and neutral is kind of real loose. That's where you want to find anything, is in that loose place where everything's in equal directional tonus. All the muscles that have to do with this movement, when you find that neutral place, are in equal tone. When they're in equal tone, then the muscles can reset, the proprioceptive nervous system can see where it is, it can shift, resets, and things change. You can change in about 10 seconds, sometimes quicker, sometimes a little longer. It's all individual to that. And then in finding that, our principles are to be non-judgmental, to simply accept people where they're at, to not decide that they have to be different or they must change or be a straight-back person. I often say that when a hunchback comes in to see me, I don't try to make them a straight-back person. I simply try to make them a more comfortable hunchback. I want to just let them be who they are and let them have comfort. So I'm not going to judge them for any of those things. Just work with them as they are, as it is in that moment. Then you want to accept them. You want to do less. Less is more is one of our principles. Then we have, for every action, there's an opposite reaction. If you take the body and hold it in that position where it's comfortable, and then you add a little compression, what the body's going to do when it gets the message, and it goes, oh, look where I am, is to shift. You push it in, it's going to want to push out. It will change, it'll elongate. If it liked going out, it's going to pull back in. Everything has rebound in our bodies. It all has balance. So with Ortho-Bionomy, we're always going to support people. We're going to facilitate their change. We don't fix, cure, or heal. We simply want to support people being where they're at to be more